I came home for Christmas. The house was dark, except for my husband's stepbrother sitting in the corner, gaming headset on. A note said, "Gone to Aspen with Veronica. You'll babysit Marcus. He's your problem now." Marcus looked up from his screen and said, "Ready to play the game?" I nodded. 5 days later, my husband was bankrupt.
Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're a subscriber, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Tell us a duh.
The crumpled paper fell from my trembling fingers onto the marble entryway of the Denver mansion. Gone to Aspen with Veronica for Christmas week. Emergency business trip turned romantic getaway. You'll watch Marcus since he's between rehab stints. Make sure he doesn't trash the place. Back December 30th. Ryan. I read it 3 times, each reading making the betrayal more real. Emergency business trip. That's what he told me when he suddenly canceled our plans to visit my parents in Oregon. Important clients, he'd said. Career-making opportunity. Can't be helped. But Veronica wasn't a client. She was the 24-year-old marketing coordinator from his tech company who'd been calling our house with increasing frequency over the past 2 months. The same Veronica whose Instagram stories I'd been suspicious of, featuring expensive dinners and designer clothes on the coordinator's salary. "You look like someone just told you Santa isn't real." I spun around to find Marcus watching me from the living room doorway. At 26, he was 3 years younger than me, but looked older, worn down by what Ryan always described as addiction issues and failure to launch. His dark hair was unkempt, designer stubble suggesting he hadn't shaved in days, and he wore an expensive gaming headset around his neck like jewelry. "When did they leave?" I managed, my voice barely audible. "Tuesday morning," Marcus replied, settling back onto the massive sectional sofa surrounded by energy drink cans and takeout containers. Big, dramatic exit, lots of luggage for a business trip. He gestured at his gaming setup, 3 monitors displaying what looked like cryptocurrency trading platforms alongside some elaborate fantasy game. Been holding down the fort ever since. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. Ryan's number went straight to voicemail, just like my previous 6 attempts since Thursday. But his location services were still active, and the little dot on my map showed him in Aspen, Colorado, not in meetings with clients in Seattle, as he'd claimed. "Emergency business meeting," I whispered bitterly. Marcus paused his game and looked at me with unexpected sharpness. "You actually believed that?" He laughed, but not unkindly. "Veronica's been planning this trip for weeks. She called here looking for Ryan's passport info." Pretty voice, terrible at whispering. My stomach dropped. "You knew?" "I know lots of things they think I don't notice." Marcus tapped his temple with a finger adorned with an expensive-looking ring. "Turns out being the family disappointment makes you invisible. People say interesting things around invisible people." I sank into the leather armchair across from him, noticing for the first time how immaculate the house was, despite Marcus's apparent slovenliness. The gaming area was messy, but everything else gleamed with professional cleaning. The kitchen, visible through the archway, sparkled, and fresh flowers adorned the dining table I'd never seen Ryan eat at. "I don't understand," I said, pulling out my phone to check our joint banking account. "We've been planning Christmas dinner here for months. His parents were supposed to fly in from Phoenix. Your Aunt Sarah was driving down from Boulder." The banking app loaded, and my heart stopped. December 20th, $18,500 withdrawal. Nearly everything we'd saved for the down payment on our own house. Money I'd contributed from my marketing consulting work. Funds that represented 3 years of careful saving. "He took our savings," I whispered, showing Marcus the screen. "All of it." Marcus wasn't surprised. "They've been bleeding this place dry for months," he said matter-of-factly. "Dad's medical expenses, they claim, Ryan's business investments, my rehab bills." He gestured around the opulent room. "Meanwhile, the house gets a $250,000 renovation." "Wait," I said, confusion mixing with my anger. "Your father's medical expenses?" Marcus's expression darkened. Stage 4 lung cancer, diagnosed 6 months ago. Didn't Ryan mention that? When I shook my head, Marcus continued. Of course he didn't. Bad for the family image. Dad's been getting treatments at University Hospital, experimental stuff. Insurance covers most of it, but Ryan and Mom have been using his condition to justify all sorts of financial decisions. I felt sick. Is your father here? Should I? Dad's in hospice care in Boulder, Marcus interrupted. Has been for 2 weeks. They moved him there right before planning this Aspen trip. Convenient timing. His voice carried a bitterness that cut through his casual demeanor. The full scope of the betrayal was becoming clear. Ryan had orchestrated this entire scenario. The business trip lie, the family Christmas cancellation, even my isolation with Marcus, whom the family clearly considered a burden, all while spending our money on a romantic getaway with his affair partner. My phone buzzed with a notification. Instagram. Against my better judgment, I opened it to find exactly what I dreaded. Ryan's story from 2 hours ago. A champagne toast in what looked like a luxury ski lodge, his arm around Veronica, who wore a diamond bracelet I'd never seen before. The location tag read, The Little Nell, Aspen. The Little Nell. I knew that hotel. Ryan and I had looked at it for our honeymoon but decided it was too expensive. Apparently, it wasn't too expensive when someone else was paying. Find something interesting? Marcus asked, not looking away from his screens but clearly monitoring my reaction. I turned my phone toward him. Marcus studied the image for a moment, then opened his laptop. Within seconds, he'd pulled up the hotel's website. The Little Nell, presidential suite, runs about $3,000 a night during Christmas week. He did some quick calculations. 5 nights, meals, activities, shopping, looking at probably $30,000 minimum. $30,000, I repeated numbly. More than our entire savings, which meant Ryan had accessed other funds. Credit cards, maybe loans against the business I'd helped him start with my graphic design skills and client connections. Want to see something really interesting? Marcus asked, closing his laptop and reaching for a tablet. Check this out. He opened a financial app I didn't recognize, but the numbers displayed made my head spin. Account balances, investment portfolios, property values, all substantial amounts, all in various combinations of names that included Marcus, but not Ryan. What am I looking at? I asked. Marcus's casual demeanor shifted slightly, revealing something sharper underneath. My inheritance from my grandfather, the one Ryan thinks doesn't exist because I'm supposedly just a drug-addicted loser. He swiped through several screens. Crypto investments, real estate holdings, tech startup equity. About $8 million total, last I checked. I stared at him in shock. The expensive gaming equipment, the designer clothes I'd dismissed as spoiled rich kid purchases, the casual way he'd calculated the Aspen hotel costs. Marcus wasn't the failure Ryan had described. Ryan doesn't know? I asked. Ryan knows what I let him know, Marcus replied, which is exactly what he deserves to know. Nothing. He leaned forward, suddenly intense. See, here's the thing about being written off by your family. It gives you a lot of freedom to observe, to plan, to build something they can't touch. The sound of my phone ringing interrupted us. My sister calling from Oregon to wish me Merry Christmas. I declined the call, unable to explain this humiliation to anyone yet. There's leftover Chinese food in the fridge, Marcus offered. Not exactly Christmas dinner, but it's something. I looked around the pristine kitchen, noticing for the first time the complete absence of any Christmas preparations. No decorations, no food shopping, no wrapped presents under the enormous tree that stood bare in the corner like a monument to abandonment. Something hardened inside me, a resolve I hadn't felt since starting my own business 5 years ago. No, I said firmly, we deserve better than leftover takeout on Christmas. I grabbed my coat and purse. I'm going to find what stores are open. We're having a proper meal today, and we're going to decorate that tree. Marcus looked genuinely surprised, then pleased. Haven't had a home-cooked meal since before Dad got sick. Ryan always orders delivery when he bothers to show up. At the nearly empty grocery store, my mind raced with questions. How long had Ryan been planning to leave me?
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Was our entire 4-year marriage just convenient cover while he built his business with my help, only to discard me when something younger and more exciting came along? I mechanically selected a small ham, potatoes, and vegetables, barely registering the other last-minute shoppers around me. But as I stood in the checkout line, a dangerous thought began forming. If Ryan thought he could abandon me with his problem stepbrother, maybe it was time he learned exactly what kind of problem Marcus really was. When I returned, Marcus had cleared space on the massive dining table and was sitting with a laptop and several phones. "What's all this?" I asked, setting down the groceries. "Research," he replied, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Your husband's been busier than you know." My fingers trembled as I opened the folder. The first document was a printout of bank transactions dating back 6 months, highlighted in yellow marker. Transfers I'd never authorized, charges on credit cards I didn't know existed, and most damning of all, a business loan application where Ryan had forged my signature as co-guarantor. "He used my credit score," I whispered, staring at the familiar signature that wasn't quite right. "For a $200,000 business loan?" Marcus nodded grimly. "Filed 3 weeks ago. The money went into an account controlled jointly by him and Veronica. They're calling it Marketing Expansion Funds, but check page 4. I flipped through the papers with mounting horror. Page 4 showed a detailed breakdown of where the loan money had actually gone. $50,000 to a luxury car dealership for a Tesla Model S registered to Veronica. $30,000 to a high-end jewelry store. $25,000 to a travel agency for what the receipt described as extended European vacation package for 2. "They're planning to disappear," I said, the reality sinking in. "This isn't just an affair. They're planning to leave the country with my money." "Gets worse," Marcus said, pulling up another screen on his laptop. "Your husband's been systematically draining his business accounts, too. Client retainer fees, project budgets, even employee payroll funds. Everything's been funneled into accounts Veronica has access to." He showed me a complex flowchart he'd created, mapping money movement between dozens of accounts. Ryan's company is technically bankrupt as of yesterday. He's been robbing Peter to pay Paul for months, and now there's no more Peters left. I felt physically sick. What about his employees? Sarah from accounting? The developers he hired last year? "Paychecks bounced on December 23rd, Marcus replied quietly. "Christmas bonuses, too." He blamed it on a banking error and promised to fix it after the holidays. The cruel timing hit me. Ryan's employees would be discovering they couldn't pay their Christmas bills while he was toasting champagne in Aspen. These were people I'd gotten to know at company parties, individuals who'd trusted Ryan's promises about profit sharing and job security. "There's more," Marcus said, handing me another document. "Insurance policies. Ryan took out a $1 million life insurance policy on you 4 months ago." My blood turned to ice. Life insurance? Very specific terms. Pays out triple for accidental death. And look at this. He showed me the beneficiary information. Primary beneficiary isn't Ryan. It's a trust controlled by Veronica Matthews. The room started spinning. This wasn't just theft or even abandonment. Ryan had been planning something far more sinister. "Marcus, what are you saying?" "I'm saying your husband has been methodically destroying every bridge behind him while building a very comfortable new life with his girlfriend. A life that becomes much easier to fund if certain inconvenient people aren't around to claim their share." I stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. The snow was falling heavier now, blanketing the Denver suburbs in pristine white that seemed to mock the ugliness being revealed inside this house. "I need to call the police." "With what evidence?" Marcus asked. "Everything I've shown you was obtained through methods that wouldn't hold up in court. Hacking into business accounts, accessing private communications, financial surveillance. Any lawyer worth their fee would get it all thrown out." He was right, and I knew it. So what do I do? Just let them steal everything and disappear? Marcus closed his laptop and studied me carefully. Emma, can I ask you something personal? When you first started dating Ryan, what attracted you to him? The question caught me off guard. I don't see how that's relevant. Humor me. I sank back into my chair, thinking back 4 years to when we'd met at a Denver networking event. He was confident, charismatic. He had big plans for his business and seemed to know exactly how to make them happen. I was just starting my consulting practice, and he made me feel like we could build something together. And you did, Marcus said. Your graphic design work, your client connections, your business expertise. Ryan's company succeeded because of your contributions, not in spite of them. I'd never thought about it that way, but he was right. My designs had won Ryan's company 3 major contracts. My networking had brought in dozens of clients. I'd worked unpaid overtime for years, treating his success as our shared goal. The man you married was already a predator, Marcus continued. He identified you as someone with valuable skills and resources, then systematically isolated you while extracting everything useful. The Veronica situation isn't a midlife crisis or a moment of weakness. It's the natural conclusion of his pattern.
You think he's done this before? Marcus opened his laptop again and pulled up what looked like a social media investigation board. Photos of women, timeline entries, financial records. Meet Jessica Hartwell, Ryan's ex-girlfriend before you. Graphic designer, just like you. They dated for 2 years while he was launching his first business venture. I stared at the photos. Jessica was blonde like me, similar age, similar professional background. What happened to her? After her designs helped him secure his initial clients, Ryan suddenly discovered she was holding him back professionally. They broke up right before his first major contract started paying out. Jessica had to file bankruptcy 6 months later. He scrolled to another section. And here's Amanda Chen, the girlfriend before Jessica, marketing specialist. Same pattern. 2 years of unpaid work building his brand, then suddenly she wasn't compatible with his vision for the future. The pattern was unmistakable. Ryan didn't fall in love with women. He identified and exploited them. I was just the latest in a series of talented women he'd used and discarded. Why doesn't anyone know about this? I asked. Because he's very good at controlling the narrative, Marcus replied. Jessica tried to expose him online, but Ryan's lawyer sent her a cease and desist letter claiming defamation. Amanda was too embarrassed to talk publicly about being scammed by someone she'd loved. I felt a surge of rage unlike anything I'd ever experienced, not just at Ryan, but at myself for being so blind. All the signs had been there. The way he'd gradually taken control of our finances, his insistence that I work from home instead of maintaining my own office, the subtle criticisms that had slowly eroded my confidence in my own judgment. He isolated me, I said, the realization hitting like a physical blow. From my friends, my family, my professional contacts, everything runs through him now. Classic predator behavior, Marcus confirmed. And now he's preparing to discard you just like the others, except this time the stakes are higher. More money involved, more legal complications, more potential exposure for him. I thought about the insurance policy, the forged signatures, the systematic theft of funds. You think he's planning to kill me? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I think he's planning for the possibility. Whether it's an accident during a hiking trip or a convenient suicide when you discover his affair, he's covered his bases. The insurance payout would fund his new life very comfortably. The casual way Marcus discussed my potential murder should have been terrifying, but instead, I felt a cold clarity settling over me. Ryan had underestimated me completely, just as he'd underestimated his stepbrother. We were both supposed to be convenient victims in his grand plan. Show me everything, I said firmly. Every document, every pattern, every connection. If Ryan wants to play games with people's lives, it's time he learned what happens when he picks the wrong targets. Marcus smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't casual or hiding anything. It was sharp and calculating and utterly without mercy. Now you're talking.
But first, you should know exactly who you're working with. He pulled out his phone and showed me a news article from 2 years ago. The headline read, MIT graduate's cryptocurrency algorithm nets $50 million in first quarter. The photo showed Marcus in a suit, accepting some kind of tech industry award. He looked nothing like the deliberately disheveled gaming addict I'd been introduced to at family gatherings. Marcus Chen Williams, I read aloud. Wait, Chen? My mother's maiden name. I use it professionally to distance myself from this family's reputation. Marcus pocketed his phone. The addiction story, the failure to launch narrative, the gaming obsession, all carefully constructed to keep Ryan and his mother from realizing I had resources they couldn't touch. $50 million, I repeated numbly. Closer to 80 now, with compound growth and some smart investments. Turns out, being underestimated by your family gives you a lot of freedom to build an empire they know nothing about. The next hour transformed my understanding of everything. Marcus led me through his evidence archives with the methodical precision of someone who'd been preparing for war. Each folder revealed another layer of Ryan's deception, but also another aspect of Marcus's hidden capabilities. Here's where it gets interesting, Marcus said, opening a file labeled Family Financial History. Ryan and his mother think they've been clever about accessing Dad's medical accounts. What they don't realize is that I've been the one actually managing Dad's finances for the past 2 years. He showed me power of attorney documents, all legally executed and notarized. Dad signed these when his diagnosis got serious. He didn't trust Elaine with his money, and he definitely didn't trust Ryan. So technically, every dollar they've taken has been theft from accounts I control. But you let them steal? I let them hang themselves, Marcus corrected. Every fraudulent withdrawal, every forged signature, every fake medical expense. I have documentation of all of it. They think they're stealing from a dying old man. They're actually stealing from someone who owns half of Colorado's emerging tech sector. Marcus pulled up another screen showing property holdings. My father wasn't just an aerospace engineer, Emma. He was a patent holder. Guidance systems for commercial aircraft, satellite navigation improvements, defense contracts. When he got sick, he transferred all his intellectual property to me rather than leave it to Elaine and Ryan. The patents alone were worth millions, but Marcus had leveraged them into something much larger. I used Dad's aerospace connections to break into government contracts, cybersecurity for defense systems, encrypted communications for military applications. The gaming setup you see is actually how I access classified networks. I felt like I was learning about a completely different person. Ryan has no idea? Ryan thinks I spend my days playing video games and ordering DoorDash, Marcus laughed, but it held no humor. He's told people at family gatherings that I'm a cautionary tale about wasted potential. Meanwhile, my company just secured a $50 million contract with the Pentagon. The irony was staggering. While Ryan had been running elaborate scams to steal hundreds of thousands, his stepbrother had been legitimately earning millions. What about your mother, Elaine? Marcus's expression hardened. Elaine married my father for his pension and life insurance. She's been slowly poisoning him for months. The accusation hung in the air like a physical presence. Poisoning? Small doses of cleaning chemicals in his food. Nothing immediately fatal, but enough to accelerate his decline and make the cancer symptoms worse. Marcus pulled up medical records showing unexplained toxicology results. The doctors couldn't understand why his condition was deteriorating faster than expected. I had his blood tested privately. Bleach, ammonia, drain cleaner, all in small but consistent doses. I felt physically sick. You have proof? Hidden cameras throughout the house. 18 months of footage showing Elaine adding chemicals to Dad's meals, mixing them into his medications, even spraying them on his clothes. Marcus's voice was carefully controlled. She's been murdering him slowly while crying about the stress of caregiving. The scope of the family's criminality was beyond anything I'd imagined. Why hasn't you gone to the police? Because I wanted them all, Marcus said simply. Ryan, Veronica, Elaine. A murder charge against Elaine alone wouldn't touch Ryan's financial crimes or Veronica's conspiracy. I needed them to commit enough additional crimes to ensure they all went down together. He opened another file showing surveillance footage timestamps. Every family gathering, every private conversation, every planning session for their various schemes. I have it all documented. You've been recording them for 18 months? Longer, ever since Ryan started bringing Veronica around, and I noticed the way they looked at each other. Marcus pulled up audio files. Want to hear them planning your murder? I wasn't sure I did, but I needed to know the truth. Marcus played a recording from what sounded like a restaurant, Ryan and Veronica's voices clearly audible. The insurance pays triple for accidental death. Hiking accident, car crash, something that looks random. Emma's always been clumsy. Veronica's laugh was cold. Poor thing, so devoted to a husband who's planning to trade up. The beauty is, she'll never see it coming. She trusts me completely. Probably die thinking it was just bad luck. Marcus stopped the recording. That was recorded 3 weeks ago at Giuseppe's downtown. They were celebrating the approval of your life insurance policy. I sat in stunned silence, processing the casual way they discussed ending my life. Not in anger or passion, but as a simple business transaction. There's more, Marcus said quietly. Want to hear them planning to frame you for embezzling from Ryan's business? Frame me? They've been creating evidence that you're the one stealing client funds, forged emails, falsified expense reports, even planted evidence in your home office. Marcus showed me digital forensics analysis. If you died in a convenient accident, you would have been post-hossibly blamed for destroying Ryan's company. He gets the insurance money and keeps his reputation clean. The methodical cruelty of it took my breath away. Ryan hadn't just been planning to kill me, he'd been planning to destroy my memory and reputation afterward. But we're going to turn all of this around, Marcus continued, his tone shifting to something darker. Because while they've been planning your downfall, I've been planning theirs. He pulled up what looked like a comprehensive battle plan, complete with timelines, legal strategies, and financial warfare tactics. Phase 1, we expose the embezzlement to his clients and employees, not all at once, but systematically, so Ryan has time to panic and make mistakes. Phase 2, we trigger the forensic accounting audit I've already arranged with the IRS. They'll freeze all of Ryan's accounts while investigating the financial irregularities I've documented. Marcus opened another screen, showing federal agency contact information. Phase 3, we provide the FBI with evidence of the conspiracy, including the murder plot recordings and the money laundering through offshore accounts. And Phase 4? Marcus's smile was absolutely savage. Phase 4 is where we take everything they thought they were stealing and redistribute it to their victims. Your business clients get their money back with interest. Ryan's employees get their bonuses and severance packages. The rest goes to cancer research in Dad's memory. I studied the plan, impressed by its thoroughness and legal sophistication. How do you know all this will work? Because I've been setting it up for 18 months, Marcus replied. Every shell company Ryan created, I've been tracking. Every offshore account, I know the passwords. Every crime they've committed, I have evidence. They think they've been operating in secret, but they've actually been performing for an audience of one. He pulled up bank account information, showing balances I couldn't believe. By the time we're done, Ryan will have nothing. No money, no business, no freedom, and no future. Veronica will face conspiracy charges and financial ruin, and Elaine will spend her remaining years in prison for murder. What about us? I asked. What happens to us when this is over? Marcus leaned back in his chair, considering the question. You get your life back, Emma. Your reputation, your clients, your financial security, plus enough money to start over anywhere you want. And you? I get justice for my father and the satisfaction of watching 3 psychopaths face consequences for their actions. Marcus's expression softened slightly. And maybe, for the first time in my life, I get to be part of a family that isn't trying to destroy each other. I looked around the sophisticated office disguised as a gaming den, thinking about the elaborate deceptions both sides had been practicing. You could have exposed them at any time. Why risk letting them hurt more people? Because Ryan needed to commit the ultimate crime, Marcus said. If I'd exposed the embezzlement alone, he might have gotten a few years in minimum security prison. Rich white-collar criminals often get off light, but conspiracy to commit murder? That's a life sentence. The calculation was ruthless but logical. Marcus had been willing to let Ryan's crimes escalate to ensure maximum punishment. What if something had happened to me before now? I asked. What if their plan had worked? Marcus met my eyes directly. It wouldn't have. I've been protecting you without you knowing it for months. That hiking trip Ryan suggested in November, I arranged for the trail to be closed for maintenance. The rock climbing class he bought you for Christmas, I had the instructor report safety concerns that canceled it. You've been watching me. I've been keeping you alive, Marcus corrected. Ryan's been getting increasingly desperate as his financial schemes unravel. The Aspen trip was supposed to be his final play. Drain the last available funds, set up the murder scenario, then flee the country with Veronica. Marcus pulled up airline records showing tickets purchased under false names. They're not planning to come back on December 30th, Emma. They have flights to the Cayman Islands scheduled for January 2nd, one-way tickets. The betrayal was even more complete than I'd realized. Ryan wasn't just planning to steal from me and kill me. He was planning to abandon his entire life and everyone in it. So what happens now? Marcus saved his work and turned to face me fully. Now, we spend the next 5 days making sure Ryan's vacation becomes the worst mistake of his life. When he returns, expecting to find you grieving over his stepbrother's death and ready to be manipulated into signing documents that finalize his theft, he's going to find something very different. Which is? Justice, Marcus said simply, and the end of his ability to hurt anyone ever again. I felt a cold determination settling over me. Ryan had underestimated both of us catastrophically. He'd left his wife with someone he considered a harmless failure, not knowing he was actually leaving her with one of the most dangerous people he could have chosen. "All right," I said, standing up with new purpose. "Teach me everything. Show me how to take him down." Marcus's smile was sharp with anticipation. "Now we're talking. Let's begin with Lesson 1, how to destroy someone who thinks they're untouchable." Marcus led me to a wall of monitors I'd mistaken for an elaborate gaming setup. With a few keystrokes, the screens transformed into what looked like a mission control center. Financial data streams, encrypted communications, and real-time surveillance feeds filled every display. "First rule of warfare," Marcus said, settling into his chair, "know your enemy better than they know themselves." He pulled up a comprehensive dossier on Ryan that must have taken months to compile. Every credit card, every bank account, every business registration, every social media interaction. I've been building this profile since Dad first got diagnosed. The level of detail was staggering. Marcus had documentation of Ryan's daily routines, his favorite restaurants, his travel patterns, even his preferred parking spots. How did you collect all this? Same way intelligence agencies do. Digital forensics, financial surveillance, human intelligence networks. Marcus opened another screen showing a web of contacts. Turns out, when you have $80 million, people are very willing to provide information services. He pulled up surveillance footage from various locations around Denver. Private investigators, security consultants, even a few federal contacts from my government contracting work. Ryan thinks he's been operating in secret, but he's been under professional observation for over a year. "This is insane," I murmured, watching footage of Ryan and Veronica at what appeared to be a romantic dinner just last week. "You've been running a private intelligence operation." "I've been protecting my interests," Marcus corrected, "and gathering evidence of federal crimes. The FBI has been very interested in my findings, especially the international money laundering aspects." He opened a secure communication channel showing encrypted messages with contact names like Agent Morrison and Director Chen. "I've been a federal informant for 6 months. Everything Ryan's done has been building toward a massive federal case." My head was spinning. The FBI knows about all this? They know about the financial crimes. The murder conspiracy is new information that will upgrade the charges significantly. Marcus pulled up legal statutes on another screen. Wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, attempted murder. We're looking at potential life sentences for all three of them. I studied the evidence Marcus had compiled, impressed despite myself, by the thoroughness of his operation. What about his current clients, the people who've been scammed? Already being handled, Marcus replied, opening a client database. I've been secretly documenting every fraudulent transaction and preparing restitution packages. The moment Ryan's arrested, every victim gets their money back with interest. How is that possible? Marcus's expression was matter of fact. Because I control more money than Ryan's stolen. Returning a few million to his victims is a minor expense to ensure they cooperate with federal prosecutors. He showed me bank accounts set up specifically for victim restitution. Sarah from accounting will get her missing bonuses plus severance. Jessica Hartwell gets compensation for the work Ryan stole. Every client who's been defrauded gets made whole. The scope of Marcus's planning was breathtaking. You've been orchestrating this entire scenario. I've been preparing for every contingency, Marcus agreed, including the one where Ryan finally went too far and targeted someone I couldn't let him destroy. Meaning me? Marcus met my eyes directly. Meaning someone innocent who didn't deserve what this family does to people. You're not just another victim in Ryan's pattern, Emma. You're the victim who's going to end his pattern permanently. He opened a new file showing detailed psychological profiles. Ryan's a textbook sociopath. No empathy, no conscience, just an endless appetite for what other people have. Elaine's a narcissistic psychopath who sees murder as a minor inconvenience if it gets her what she wants. Veronica's just greedy and stupid enough to go along with anything that benefits her. And us? We're the people who are going to stop them from hurting anyone else, Marcus said simply. But first, we need to understand exactly how we're going to do it.
Marcus pulled up what looked like a military-style operational plan, complete with timelines, contingencies, and success metrics. December 26th through 29th, we build the final pieces of our case, document everything, secure all evidence, and prepare legal packages for multiple agencies. December 30th, when they return, we spring the trap, but not immediately. We let them think they've won first. Why wait? Because the moment they feel safe, they'll make their final mistakes. Ryan will try to access accounts I've already frozen. Veronica will attempt to transfer money that's already been seized. Elaine will try to claim life insurance on Dad that's been invalidated due to her murder charges. Marcus showed me surveillance schedules and communication intercepts. Every move they make will be documented and used against them. By January 2nd, when they're supposed to fly to the Cayman Islands, they'll be in federal custody instead. I studied the operational timeline, recognizing the military precision behind it. You planned all this before I even arrived, didn't you? I planned for multiple scenarios, Marcus admitted. Ryan leaving you here was just one possibility, but it was the one I hoped for because it gave us the opportunity to work together. Why did you want to work with me specifically? Marcus was quiet for a moment, then pulled up a different file. Because you're not just Ryan's victim, Emma, you're also the key to bringing down his entire operation. He showed me business registration documents with my name and signature. You're listed as co-owner of Ryan's company, which means you have legal standing to authorize forensic audits, freeze accounts, and cooperate with federal investigations. I stared at the documents in shock. I never signed these. Ryan forged them to make it easier to open business accounts and secure loans. But forgery works both ways. The same signatures that make you liable for his debts also give you control over his assets. Marcus opened a legal brief that must have been hundreds of pages long. I've been working with federal prosecutors to structure a case where you're treated as a victim rather than an accomplice. Your cooperation in exposing Ryan's crimes, combined with evidence of your own victimization, creates immunity for any inadvertent involvement. So I won't face charges? You'll face gratitude from federal prosecutors who've been trying to build a case against Ryan for months. Your insider knowledge, combined with my evidence, gives them everything they need for conviction.
Marcus pulled up communication logs showing months of contact with various federal agencies. The FBI, IRS, SEC, and even Interpol have been coordinating on this case. Ryan's international money laundering caught their attention first, but the murder conspiracy makes it a national security issue. National security? Ryan's been stealing from defense contractors through his business relationships. Some of his clients work on classified projects. Financial fraud against companies with security clearances gets federal attention very quickly. The implications were staggering. Ryan hadn't just been running a local scam, he'd been committing crimes that threatened national interests. "What's my role in all this?" I asked, feeling overwhelmed by the complexity. Marcus turned to face me fully, his expression serious. "Your role is to be yourself, Emma, a smart, capable woman who was victimized by a predator but who's strong enough to fight back. The prosecutors need a compelling victim witness, and you're perfect for that role. But more importantly," he continued, "you're going to help me make sure Ryan never hurts anyone again, not just through legal consequences, but by taking away everything he values: his money, his reputation, his freedom, his future." Marcus pulled up one final screen showing a calendar marked with specific dates and actions. "We have 5 days to execute the most satisfying takedown in criminal justice history. 5 days to turn Ryan's perfect crime into his perfect downfall." I looked at the evidence surrounding us, the months of careful planning, the federal agencies involved, the scope of justice being prepared. Marcus had built something far more sophisticated than simple revenge. He'd created a mechanism for comprehensive justice that would protect future victims while giving current ones restitution. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "I need you to trust me," Marcus said, "and I need you to be ready to act when the moment comes. Because when Ryan walks through that door on December 30th, expecting to find his pathetic stepbrother and his naive wife, he's going to find something that will destroy him completely." Marcus stood up and extended his hand one more time. "Partners in justice?" I shook his hand firmly, feeling the weight of the alliance we were forming. "Partners in justice. Now show me exactly how we're going to take them down."
With pleasure, Marcus replied, his smile promising the kind of reckoning that would make Ryan regret every cruel decision he'd ever made. Let's begin the systematic destruction of everything Ryan Williams holds dear. The doorbell rang at exactly 8 a.m. the next morning. Marcus checked his security monitors before answering. "That's our legal team." 3 people stood on the doorstep: Catherine Rodriguez, a federal criminal defense attorney, David Kim, a forensic accountant, and Agent Morrison from the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division. "Mrs. Williams, I've been following your situation closely," Catherine said, opening her briefcase. "Marcus has provided extensive documentation of the crimes committed against you. We have sufficient evidence to prove systematic fraud totaling approximately $4.2 million. Agent Morrison spoke with measured authority. "Your cooperation will be crucial for conviction. We need insider testimony about Ryan's business practices and operational methods." Catherine withdrew immunity agreements. "These protect you from charges for any inadvertent involvement in your husband's schemes. You were a victim of fraud, not a willing participant." Marcus pulled up evidence on his monitors showing encrypted messages between Ryan and Veronica discussing escape plans to non-extradition countries. They've been planning to flee with stolen funds for months. "The insurance policy alone would have funded their entire new life," Catherine confirmed. $3 million is enough to live comfortably in countries that don't cooperate with U.S. law enforcement. Agent Morrison showed international cooperation agreements. "However, we've been coordinating with Interpol. There's nowhere they can run where we can't reach them." David spread financial documents across the table. Modern financial crimes leave digital traces. Every wire transfer, cryptocurrency transaction, offshore account, we can track it all. Marcus displayed real-time monitoring screens. "I've been watching their accounts 24/7. As of this morning, federal judges issued seizure orders for all accounts connected to Ryan's fraud operation." "Their credit cards will start declining today," Agent Morrison added. "We're curious to see how they react when their funding disappears."
What happens when they try to come home? I asked. Arrested the moment they land in Denver. Multiple federal warrants, state charges for fraud and conspiracy. Catherine pulled out additional documents. We need to discuss asset recovery and victim restitution. Long-term justice requires returning stolen property to rightful owners, including your legitimate business assets. Marcus surveyed our assembled team. Emma, you're looking at some of the best federal prosecutors and investigators in the country. This isn't just personal revenge anymore. We're dismantling a criminal organization. What about Elaine? I asked. Agent Morrison's expression darkened. State prosecutors are preparing murder charges. The evidence Marcus provided is overwhelming. After the legal team left, Marcus and I sat contemplating what we'd set in motion. Still feel like playing the game? Marcus asked. I thought about Ryan's cruelty, his dying father abandoned in hospice care, the employees whose Christmas was ruined by bounced paychecks. More than ever. Then, let's finish what they started. The next morning, Marcus handed me a burner phone and a detailed script. Today, we start the performance that will bring them home early, he said. Time to let them think their plan is working perfectly. I studied the script he'd prepared, a masterpiece of psychological manipulation designed to trigger exactly the responses we needed. First call goes to Melissa, Ryan's sister. She's the weak link, emotional, prone to panic, and she'll relay everything directly to Ryan. Marcus positioned cameras to record my performance for FBI documentation, while adjusting lighting to make me appear exhausted and overwhelmed. I dialed Melissa's number, genuinely nervous. Emma, how's Christmas going with Marcus? Not well, I said, injecting controlled panic into my voice. Melissa, something's wrong with Marcus, really wrong. I glanced at Marcus, who gave subtle coaching gestures. He's been acting strange, talking about conspiracies, showing me documents that don't make sense. I think he might be having some kind of breakdown. We'd crafted this story to make the family believe I was discovering his delusions about their crimes rather than learning the truth. What kind of documents? Melissa asked, concern replacing vacation cheerfulness. Financial papers, bank statements with wild accusations about Ryan stealing money. He keeps insisting your father is being poisoned. I let real emotion creep into my voice. Melissa, he's scaring me. Oh, God, Melissa breathed. We were worried about leaving you alone with him. Marcus has had episodes before.
Episodes. The family had ready explanations for Marcus's behavior that would discredit any accusations. Ryan isn't answering his phone. They're probably skiing. Cell service is terrible on the mountain. Melissa's voice carried the slight slur of someone who'd been drinking. Just avoid him. Don't engage with his conspiracy theories. I don't think I can handle this alone. He keeps talking about revenge and justice and making people pay. Marcus gave me a thumbs up, perfect notes to make them nervous without seeming coordinated. I'll try to reach Ryan, Melissa promised. Maybe they can come home early if it's really serious. After hanging up, Marcus reviewed the recording with satisfaction. Melissa will call Ryan within the hour, and he'll face a choice: cut his romantic vacation short or risk having his wife discover something compromising. An hour later, my phone rang. Ryan's voice was tight with irritation. Emma, what the hell is going on? Melissa says Marcus is having some kind of psychotic break. Ryan, thank God, I've been trying to reach you for days. What's this about Marcus? He's been showing me papers, making accusations. I paced while Marcus monitored. He claims you've been stealing money, that your mother is poisoning your father. It's completely insane. Shit, Ryan muttered. Marcus has had paranoid episodes before. Usually we have to hospitalize him. Hospitalize? Psychiatric hold. He gets fixated on conspiracy theories. Ryan's voice carried practiced concern. When Marcus gets like this, he can become violent. Marcus held up antipsychotic medications with his name, props for our performance, but also evidence of years of family gaslighting. I'm going to see if we can cut this trip short. Meanwhile, avoid confronting him. Just agree with whatever he says and keep yourself safe. After hanging up, I turned to Marcus. He's planning to come home early and have you committed.
Exactly what I expected, Marcus replied calmly, which is why we escalate immediately. He contacted federal agents about witness intimidation, another charge. Within minutes, Agent Morrison called back. We're moving to active investigation status. Federal marshals will be positioned at Denver International when Ryan's flight lands. Asset seizures? Marcus asked. Warrants are being signed now. By tonight, every account Ryan has access to will be frozen. Catherine's voice joined from her office. I've filed emergency motions preventing any psychiatric commitments of key witnesses. After the call, Marcus pulled up airline tracking. Their return flight is tomorrow afternoon, 30 hours to complete preparations. Marcus opened a checklist. Secure physical evidence, backup surveillance footage, prepare victim impact statements. 18 months of documentation needs proper cataloging for prosecutors. And then we wait for them to walk into the trap they've been building. When Ryan arrives expecting to find his crazy stepbrother and manipulated wife, he'll find federal agents and arrest warrants instead. Will it really be over when they're arrested? The criminal case will be over, but justice takes longer. Trials, sentencing, asset recovery, probably a year before final resolution. Marcus looked at me directly. We rebuild. You restart your design business. I continue helping the government catch financial criminals. And personally, we figure out what kind of family we want to be. The real kind, not the kind that destroys each other for money. Ready for the final phase? Marcus asked. Ready, I replied. Let's end this. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. Marcus checked his security system as 3 cars pulled into the driveway. Perfect timing. Our character witnesses have arrived. I watched people I didn't recognize approach the house. Who are they? Ryan's former employees, ex-clients, and previous victims. People who've been waiting years for someone to take him down. Sarah Martinez introduced herself first. Ryan's head of accounting until he fired me for asking questions about missing client funds. Behind her, Tom Chen carried a thick folder. Ryan stole $40,000 from my construction company. I've been documenting his fraud for 18 months. Jessica Hartwell stepped forward. The woman Ryan exploited before you, she said with confidence. I'm a prosecutor now, specializing in financial crimes. I've been waiting 4 years for this opportunity. Marcus led them to the dining room. Everyone here represents a different aspect of Ryan's criminal operation. Tom opened his folder. I've been in contact with 17 other business owners who were defrauded. We've formed a victims coalition to share evidence and coordinate restitution claims. Sarah opened financial analysis software. I kept copies of everything before Ryan fired me. 5 years of evidence documenting systematic embezzlement.
Detective Ray Morrison spoke from the corner. Denver PD Financial Crimes Division. We've been tracking Ryan Williams for 3 years without enough evidence for arrest. What Marcus provided changes everything. Jessica leaned forward with prosecutor instincts. Federal agencies take priority because of interstate elements, but Colorado will pursue state charges for murder conspiracy and local fraud. The scope of Ryan's victims was staggering. Each person shared stories of sophisticated manipulation spanning years. The beauty of white-collar crime, Jessica explained, is perpetrators think they're invisible because victims are isolated from each other. Ryan never imagined we'd find each other. Marcus pulled up a digital map showing victim locations across multiple states. Interstate fraud on a massive scale. Tom calculated collective damages. $2.8 million from everyone in this room. That's just documented losses. Marcus addressed the group. What we're doing isn't just individual justice. We're dismantling a predatory operation that's been destroying lives for years. Detective Morrison checked his watch. Federal marshals are positioned at Denver International. The moment they land, they'll be taken into custody. Jessica showed legal statutes. Between federal and state charges, we're looking at potential sentences of 25 to 40 years for Ryan, 15 to 20 for Veronica, and life without parole for Elaine. Asset recovery? Tom asked. I control more legitimate money than Ryan ever stole illegally, Marcus replied. Every victim will receive full restitution plus damages. Jessica revealed another development.
We've contacted Ryan's other ex-girlfriends, 9 women total over a decade, all exploited for their skills and resources. The systematic nature was breathtaking. Ryan had been a serial predator, destroying lives as a business model. As people prepared to leave, Sarah approached me privately. "Emma, testifying against Ryan isn't easy, but now you have all of us backing you up." After everyone left, Marcus and I reviewed our progress. "How do you feel about tomorrow?" Marcus asked. "Ready for it to be over." By tomorrow night, Ryan Williams will be in federal custody, his criminal empire dismantled, and his victims will finally have justice. Ryan's crimes and the coalition assembled to stop him. "How do you feel about tomorrow?" Marcus asked. I considered the question carefully, nervous about seeing him again, but ready for it to be over. Marcus nodded. By tomorrow night, Ryan Williams will be in federal custody, his criminal empire will be dismantled, and his victims will finally have justice. And us? We'll finally be free to build something better than the family we were born into, Marcus said quietly. Something based on loyalty and protection instead of exploitation and betrayal. The weight of what we'd accomplished together settled over me. In 1 week, we'd transformed from isolated victims into the architects of comprehensive justice. "Ready for tomorrow?" Marcus asked. "Ready," I replied. "Let's finish what they started." At 3 p.m., Marcus's secure phone rang with Agent Morrison's encrypted call. "It's happening," Marcus said, putting it on speaker as we watched financial monitoring screens. "All asset seizure warrants executed," Agent Morrison's voice crackled. "Ryan Williams no longer has access to any accounts as of 15 minutes ago." Red warning messages appeared across dozens of accounts. Every financial resource funding Ryan's criminal operation was now frozen by federal order. "Aspen Hotel charges?" I asked. "Declined 10 minutes ago. Local law enforcement reports they were asked to leave the Little Nell immediately. Caused quite a scene when their platinum card was rejected." Marcus pulled up surveillance feeds showing Ryan and Veronica in the hotel lobby with luggage, looking panicked as they tried different credit cards. "Phase 1 complete," Marcus said. "Now they discover financial powerlessness." Catherine Rodriguez joined the call. "Emma, we've secured restraining orders preventing Ryan from accessing joint accounts or marital property." Marcus opened business asset transfer screens. "The interesting development is what we're doing with Ryan's company assets. As of this morning, I own controlling interest in Williams Marketing Solutions." I stared at him. "You bought his company?" "I bought his debts, giving me legal control over business assets," Marcus corrected. "Every computer, client contract, piece of intellectual property, all collateral for loans he can't repay." Agent Morrison approved. "Perfectly legal financial maneuvering. Mr. Chen used public debt markets to acquire controlling interest in a failing company. As majority creditor, I can dissolve the company and liquidate assets for debt recovery. Every client gets money back, every employee gets severance, Ryan gets nothing." "What about the employees depending on those jobs?" I asked. "They get better jobs with companies that don't commit fraud," Marcus replied, opening employment contracts. "I've arranged positions with legitimate firms, better pay, actual benefits, employers who won't steal bonuses." David Kim joined by phone. "Everyone who worked for Ryan will be better off within 30 days, like watching people escape financial abuse into professional freedom." Marcus showed employee relocation spreadsheets. "Tom from IT gets a cybersecurity position at twice his salary. Sarah runs accounting for a legitimate company. The developers are starting their own firm with my seed funding. You're rescuing victims and creating opportunities. Building actual value instead of stealing it," Marcus corrected. Agent Morrison provided updates. "Ryan and Veronica are trying to book emergency flights using the last unfrozen credit card. Should land at Denver International around 8 p.m. Catherine confirmed. "Federal marshals positioned at 3 locations: gate, baggage claim, parking garage." "What if they try to run?" I asked. "Where would they run?" Marcus replied, showing 0 account balances. "No money, no transportation, no allies who aren't under federal investigation." David provided analysis. "Based on Aspen's spending patterns, they have less than $300 cash, not enough to get far or stay hidden." Marcus showed surveillance of Ryan and Veronica arguing with airline representatives, their body language screaming desperation. "They're discovering financial entrapment," Marcus observed coldly. "No access to funds, no credit, no options except coming home to face consequences." Agent Morrison turned serious. "Elaine Williams was arrested 2 hours ago at Boulder Hospice. What was she doing there?" "Attempting to access her husband's medical files and insurance information, filing fraudulent death benefit claims before anyone discovered she'd killed him." Marcus pulled up Elaine's booking photos. Even with Dad dead, she couldn't resist stealing from his memory. "Murder charges are official," Agent Morrison confirmed. "First-degree murder with aggravating circumstances. Colorado prosecutors seeking life without parole." Marcus pulled up news monitoring feeds. Local media picking up the story. Tech CEO arrested for multi-million-dollar fraud. Front-page news for weeks. Agent Morrison confirmed, "Ryan Williams and Veronica Matthews have boarded their Denver flight. Expected arrival 8:47 p.m. Federal arrest teams in position." Marcus saved his work and turned off screens. In 5 hours, Ryan discovers that abandoning you with his failure stepbrother was the worst mistake of his criminal career. "Ready for the final phase?" Marcus asked. "Ready," I replied. "Let's watch them fall." At 6 p.m., Marcus's surveillance system chimed. Ryan's name appeared on caller ID, and Marcus gestured for me to answer while positioning cameras for federal recording. "Emma, thank God." Ryan's voice was tight with panic. "Something's wrong with our accounts. All our cards are being declined, and the hotel kicked us out." I exchanged glances with Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. Time for the performance that would capture Ryan's true character on federal surveillance. "What do you mean declined?" I asked, injecting confusion. "Did you check the balance?" "I can't access anything," Ryan said, frustration bleeding through. "Online banking, credit cards, business accounts, everything's frozen." Marcus pulled up real-time audio analysis showing Ryan's spiking stress levels. The psychological pressure was working exactly as planned. "That's impossible," I said. "Maybe it's a technical glitch. Banks have problems during holidays." "This isn't a glitch, Emma. Someone's done this deliberately." Ryan's voice carried paranoid hints. "I think Marcus has been interfering with our finances." "Marcus?" I let genuine surprise color my voice. "Ryan, he's barely functional. He spends all day gaming. How could he affect our bank accounts?" "I don't know, but something's wrong. Melissa said Marcus was showing you documents, making accusations. What exactly did he say?" Marcus held up a script indicating Ryan was walking into their trap. Every word was being recorded by federal agencies. "He kept talking about conspiracies," I said, following coaching. "Claims about you stealing money, your mother poisoning your father, completely delusional stuff." "What kind of documents?" "Bank statements, business records, audio recordings. But they have to be fabricated. The things he's claiming are impossible." I paused. Unless what?" Marcus gave me a thumbs up as I delivered the line designed to make Ryan reveal his crime knowledge. "Unless someone really has been stealing from clients and employees. The documents showed missing payroll, diverted payments. If someone was actually doing that." "That's ridiculous," Ryan snapped too quickly. "My business finances are completely legitimate." But his defensive response confirmed he knew exactly what documents Marcus had shown me. "Then how do you explain the employee paychecks that bounced?" I asked. "Sarah from accounting called yesterday asking when she'd get her Christmas bonus." Silence. Ryan hadn't known his employees were talking to me. "Sarah called you?" Ryan's voice was carefully controlled. "What exactly did she say?" "That her paycheck bounced, along with everyone else's. She wanted to know if there was a problem with the company." I let concern creep in. "Ryan, is the business in trouble?" Marcus held up perfect as Ryan walked deeper into the trap. "The business is fine," Ryan said tersely. "There's just a temporary cash flow issue." "Emma, listen carefully," Ryan interrupted, voice taking on manipulative tones I'd learned to recognize. "I need you to go to the safe in my office. The combination is your birthday." Marcus's eyes sharpened. They'd found the safe weeks ago, but Ryan didn't know that. "What's in the safe?" "Emergency cash and backup credit cards. Take everything and meet us at the airport." I looked at Marcus, who was frantically typing. This was Ryan attempting to access hidden assets federal agents had already seized. How much cash? About 50,000 in hundreds, plus credit cards linked to offshore accounts. Ryan's voice carried desperate urgency. Don't let Marcus see what you're doing. Marcus held up. He's confessing to money laundering. Ryan, I'm scared, I said, genuine emotion making my voice tremble. If someone can freeze our accounts, hack our banking, that's why we need to disappear until I figure out who's targeting us. Disappear where? I have connections in the Cayman Islands, people who can help us establish new identities if necessary. Ryan's desperation was showing. Promise me you'll do exactly what I've told you. I promise, I lied. But what if this isn't Marcus? What if it's law enforcement investigating the business? Think what? Think that you've been stealing from clients. I haven't been stealing from anyone, Ryan exploded, then caught himself. I mean, there's nothing to investigate because everything's legitimate. His defensive explosion confirmed he knew exactly what crimes might be under investigation. After hanging up, Marcus reviewed the recording. Perfect. He just confessed to money laundering, flight from prosecution, and conspiracy to obstruct justice, all on federal surveillance equipment. Agent Morrison's voice joined. Outstanding work. We have everything needed for additional charges. Marcus pulled up airport surveillance, showing Ryan and Veronica boarding their Denver flight, both looking haggard. In 2 hours, they'll land expecting to find 50,000 in cash and credit cards for fleeing to the Cayman Islands, Marcus said. Instead, they'll find federal marshals with arrest warrants. Marcus opened the office safe, revealing empty cash boxes and canceled credit cards. Seized under federal warrant this morning. 1 hour and 43 minutes until touchdown, Marcus announced, until Ryan discovers that underestimating people is life-destroying. Ready for the final confrontation? Marcus asked. Ready, I replied. Let's watch justice happen. At 7:30 p.m., something unexpected happened. Marcus's secure phone rang with an emergency call from Boulder Memorial Hospice. Mr. Chen Williams, this is Dr. Patricia Sanchez. I'm calling about your father. Marcus put the call on speaker, his expression shifting from confident control to genuine concern. What about my father? I thought. There's been a mistake in our records. Your father is still alive, but his condition has deteriorated significantly. We think you should come immediately. The room went silent. Marcus stared at the phone as if it had delivered impossible news. That's not possible. Agent Morrison confirmed he was dead. Elaine was arrested for his murder. Sir, your stepmother was arrested for attempted murder and fraud, but your father survived her poisoning attempts. However, his body is shutting down from cumulative toxicity. He's been asking for you. I watched Marcus's carefully constructed composure crumble. The man who'd orchestrated federal investigations and complex financial warfare suddenly looked like a lost son. How long? Marcus asked quietly. Hours, possibly less. The damage from 18 months of systematic poisoning is extensive. Marcus closed his laptops and stood with sudden urgency. Emma, I have to go to Boulder, now. What about Ryan's flight, the arrests? Agent Morrison can handle that without us, Marcus replied, grabbing his keys. My father is dying, and he doesn't know that justice is finally coming. The drive to Boulder took 45 minutes through snowy Colorado highways. Marcus drove with focused intensity while updating the federal team. Agent Morrison, we're en route to Boulder Memorial Hospice. Marcus's father is still alive, I explained over hands-free. Understood. We'll proceed with arrests as planned. The evidence is solid regardless of your location. Marcus's voice was tight with suppressed emotion. I thought he was already gone. I thought I'd missed the chance to tell him that justice was coming. What will you tell him? The truth. That the people who hurt him are going to prison, that his death won't be meaningless because it's stopping them from hurting others. Marcus gripped the steering wheel, and that someone who actually loves him was there at the end. We arrived at the hospice to find Dr. Sanchez waiting. He's been waiting for you, she said. He's lucid but weak. The poisoning damaged his liver and kidneys significantly. Marcus's father lay in a hospital bed, conscious and alert, but gaunt and pale from months of systematic poisoning. His eyes brightened when he saw Marcus. "Son," he whispered, extending a shaking hand, "I was hoping you'd come." Marcus took his father's hand gently, tears surfacing. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have stopped this sooner." "Stopped what?" "I know what Elaine was doing to you. The poisoning, the financial theft, all of it. I have evidence, Dad. She's been arrested." His father's expression showed no surprise. "I wondered when someone would notice. I've been feeling sicker than the cancer should have made me." "Why didn't you say anything?" "Who would I tell? Ryan was always too busy with his business. The doctors thought it was just the cancer progressing." His father squeezed Marcus's hand weakly. "But you figured it out." "I figured out everything," Marcus said quietly. "Ryan's been stealing from your medical accounts. Elaine's been poisoning you. They've been planning to split your estate while you died." His father nodded with acceptance. "And what happens now?" "Now they pay for what they've done," Marcus replied. "Ryan's being arrested tonight on federal charges. Elaine's already in custody for attempted murder. They'll both spend the rest of their lives in prison." "What about you? What happens to my son who's been protecting everyone while pretending to be someone he's not?" Marcus looked surprised. "You knew I wasn't really a gaming-addicted failure?" His father's smile was weak but genuine. "Son, I've been proud of you every single day. MIT graduation, your business success, your government contracts. Did you think I didn't know about my own son's accomplishments?" At 8:47 p.m., Marcus's secure phone buzzed with a text from Agent Morrison. "Subjects in custody, both arrested without incident at Denver International." Marcus showed his father the message. "It's over, Dad. They can't hurt anyone anymore." His father closed his eyes with visible relief. "Then I can rest." Dr. Sanchez checked his monitors and spoke quietly to Marcus. "His vital signs are declining rapidly. I don't think he has much time left." Over the next hour, we sat with Marcus's father as his body finally surrendered to months of systematic abuse. But unlike the lonely death Elaine had planned, he died surrounded by people who loved him, knowing that justice had been served. Dr. Sanchez made the official pronouncement at 10:15 p.m. Time of death, 10:15 p.m., December 29th. Cause of death, organ failure due to chronic poisoning. Marcus held his father's hand for several minutes after he passed. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you." I placed my hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You did save him. You made sure he didn't die alone, and you made sure the people who killed him will face justice." Marcus looked up at me with red eyes. He was the only real family I had. "And now? Now, you have me," I said quietly. "And we have each other. Real family, not the kind that destroys people for money." As we drove back to Denver through the snowy night, I felt a profound sense of completion. Justice had been served, a good man had died knowing his killers would be punished, and two people abandoned by their families had found each other. "Ready for whatever comes next?" Marcus asked as we pulled into the driveway. "Ready," I replied. "Let's build something better." The morning after Marcus's father's death brought a strange calm. We sat in the Denver mansion's kitchen while federal agents processed evidence throughout the house. The investigation had moved from covert operation to official criminal case overnight. Agent Morrison arrived at 8 a.m. with legal documents. Ryan Williams and Veronica Matthews were arraigned this morning on 17 federal charges. Both pleaded not guilty and requested separate legal representation. Marcus looked up from his coffee with exhausted eyes. "What's the timeline for trial?" "Federal prosecutors want to move quickly given the evidence volume. We're looking at trial beginning in approximately 6 months." Agent Morrison spread files across the table. "Asset seizure and victim restitution has enabled us to recover $4.8 million in stolen funds." "How much goes back to victims?" Every penny plus interest and damages, Agent Morrison replied. Tom gets his $40,000 back with compound interest. Sarah gets her missing bonuses plus wrongful termination settlement. Agent Morrison turned to me with official documents. Mrs. Williams, you're entitled to significant civil damages, approximately $1.2 million in direct damages, plus punitive damages that could triple that amount. I felt overwhelmed by the rapid transformation. A week ago, I'd been financially dependent on a man planning to kill me. Now, I was looking at financial independence. Your testimony will be crucial for maximum sentences. Are you prepared to face Ryan in court? The thought of seeing Ryan again made my stomach tighten, but I surprised myself with my response. If my testimony helps prevent Ryan from hurting other people, then I have an obligation to testify. After Agent Morrison left, Marcus and I walked through the house that had been our operation headquarters. What happens to this house? I asked. I'm thinking of donating it to an organization that helps financial crime victims rebuild their lives, Marcus replied. Dad would have liked that. We spent the afternoon organizing Marcus's father's personal effects, finding letters and photos that revealed a good man very different from the burden his family had portrayed. He was the best man, Marcus said quietly, and they killed him for money he would have given them freely if they'd just asked honestly. Catherine Rodriguez called with final updates. The plea negotiations have begun. Ryan's attorney is exploring options for reduced sentences in exchange for cooperation. What kind of cooperation? Full disclosure of all victims, all criminal associates, all hidden assets. Basically, he'd have to destroy everyone who ever helped him commit crimes in exchange for life in prison instead of multiple life sentences. Will he take it? Ryan Williams has never taken responsibility for anything in his life, Catherine replied, which means we proceed to trial and maximum sentences for everyone involved. After the call ended, Marcus and I sat, contemplating what we'd set in motion. Do you regret any of it? Marcus asked. I regret that your father had to die, but I don't regret fighting back. I looked at this man who'd shown me more loyalty in 1 week than Ryan had in 4 years of marriage. Marcus, you saved my life. How could I regret that? When this is all over, what do you want to do with your life? I want to help people, I said without hesitation. Use my design skills for organizations that actually help victims. Build something meaningful. Want to build it together? Partners? I asked, extending my hand. Marcus shook it firmly. Partners. In justice, in healing, and in building something better than the family that tried to destroy us both. 3 months later, I stood in the federal courthouse in downtown Denver, wearing a navy blue suit and carrying testimony notes. Today was the day I would face Ryan in court for the first time since his arrest. Marcus sat beside me in the witness waiting room, providing quiet support. Remember, you're not just speaking for yourself, he said gently. You're speaking for every victim he created. Catherine Rodriguez approached with final legal briefings. Emma, the prosecution is confident about conviction, but your testimony is crucial for maximum sentencing. Ryan's defense team will try to portray you as a willing participant. What should I expect? They'll claim you knew about the business irregularities and chose to ignore them for financial benefit. They'll suggest the life insurance policy was your idea. I felt my stomach tighten. Even facing justice, Ryan was still trying to destroy my reputation. Walking into the courtroom felt surreal. The same man I'd loved and trusted for 4 years sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, flanked by attorneys. He looked older, thinner, diminished by months in federal custody. When our eyes met across the courtroom, I saw no remorse, no recognition of harm he'd caused, only cold calculation and barely contained rage at being caught. The prosecutor, Maria Santos, guided me through testimony with professional precision. Mrs. Williams, please describe your husband's behavior in the months leading up to your discovery of his crimes. I spoke clearly into the microphone, addressing the jury directly. He became increasingly controlling about our finances. I wasn't allowed to see bank statements. When I asked questions, he said I didn't understand business. Did you know about the life insurance policy he purchased in your name? I had no idea. I discovered it only when Marcus showed me the paperwork after Ryan abandoned me. I looked directly at Ryan. The beneficiary was his girlfriend, not him. He was planning to kill me and give the money to another woman. Mrs. Williams, how did you feel when you learned the scope of your husband's criminal operation? I paused, gathering my thoughts. Betrayed doesn't begin to cover it. But worse than the personal betrayal was learning about all the other victims. His employees who didn't get Christmas bonuses, his clients who lost their savings, people who trusted him the way I trusted him. During cross-examination, Ryan's attorney tried to discredit my testimony, suggesting I was motivated by revenge rather than justice, but months of preparation had readied Lee for every attack. Mrs. Williams, isn't it true that you stood to benefit financially from your husband's conviction? I stood to benefit from justice being served, I replied calmly. The money I recovered was stolen from me through forged signatures. I didn't gain anything that wasn't already mine. After 3 hours of testimony, I was finally dismissed. Walking back to the witness room, I felt drained but proud. I'd told the truth, completely, and confronted my abuser without backing down. Marcus was waiting with a gentle smile. How do you feel? Free, I said, surprising myself with the word. For the first time since I met Ryan, I feel completely free. That evening, we received word that Ryan had been convicted on all 17 federal charges. Veronica had been found guilty of conspiracy and money laundering. Elaine had been convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. The sentences? I asked Catherine over the phone. Ryan Williams, 42 years federal prison. Veronica Matthews, 18 years federal prison. With their ages and sentence lengths, neither will ever be in a position to hurt anyone again. Marcus and I sat in quiet contemplation. Justice, yes, but also the complete destruction of 3 lives devoted to destroying others. Do you feel sorry for them? Marcus asked. I considered carefully. I feel sorry for the people they could have been if they'd chosen differently, but I don't feel sorry for the people they became. They made choices, and choices have consequences. Any regrets about the path we took? No regrets, I said firmly. We stopped dangerous people from hurting others. We got justice for victims who thought they'd never see it. Marcus nodded. Dad would have been proud. The criminal case was closed, but our work was just beginning. 6 months after the trials concluded, I received an unexpected letter from Colorado State Penitentiary with Ryan's inmate number. My hands trembled as I opened it. Emma, it began, in Ryan's familiar handwriting. I've had time to think about everything that happened. I want you to know that I'm sorry for the pain I caused you. I was under enormous business pressure and made poor decisions. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I called Marcus immediately. He's still trying to manipulate me. Even from prison, he thinks he can lie and charm his way back into my life. Marcus arrived within an hour, reading the letter with disgust. Classic sociopath behavior. He's not sorry for what he did, he's sorry he got caught. The letter doesn't acknowledge his crimes, just poor decisions caused by business pressure. I forwarded the letter to Catherine Rodriguez, who confirmed that Ryan's attempted contact violated the restraining order and could add years to his sentence. The letter had unsettled me more than I'd expected. Marcus suggested we visit the Victim Resource Center we'd established in his father's former house. Sometimes helping other people helps us process our own healing. The converted mansion now served as headquarters for the Denver Financial Crime Victims Support Network. What had once been Ryan's elegant living spaces were now meeting rooms, legal aid offices, and counseling centers. Sarah Martinez, Ryan's former accountant, now worked as our financial recovery coordinator. We've helped 43 families this month, she reported. People who thought they'd never recover from financial fraud are rebuilding their lives. Jessica Hartweld had joined our board of directors, bringing prosecutorial expertise. Emma, we received another letter from Ryan this week, she said, handing me an envelope addressed to the center. This letter was different, more calculated. Ryan offered to provide information about other financial criminals he'd met in prison in exchange for reduced sentences or victim advocacy for early parole consideration. He's trying to trade information for freedom, Marcus realized, hoping to convince us he's reformed and deserves another chance. Should we consider it? Marcus's response was immediate. No. Ryan Williams is a career manipulator who would say anything to get what he wants. Any information he provides would be calculated to benefit him, not help other victims. I looked around the resource center, seeing people rebuilding their lives after financial trauma, families recovering from business partnership fraud, elderly couples who'd lost retirement savings, young entrepreneurs betrayed by trusted mentors. Ryan had his chance to provide information during his trial, I said finally. He chose to fight the charges and show no remorse. I'm not interested in giving him another opportunity to manipulate the system. We spent the afternoon working with victims' families. A young woman named Maria shared her story of being defrauded by a business partner who'd stolen her graphic design work. "It sounds familiar," I told her. "I went through something similar." "How did you recover?" "I learned that my work had value independent of the person who stole it. I rebuilt my client base, established my own reputation, and created something better than what was taken from me." At the end of the day, Marcus and I reviewed the center's quarterly reports. We'd helped recover over $3 million for fraud victims, provided legal aid to 127 families, and successfully prosecuted 14 additional financial criminals. "Your father would be proud," I told Marcus. "Our father," Marcus corrected gently. "He'd be proud of both of us." Ryan's letters continued to arrive sporadically, each one more desperate than the last. We documented each violation, adding months to his sentence while reinforcing our commitment to protecting other victims from his manipulation. The man who'd once controlled every aspect of my life now had no power to affect my choices or emotional state. Justice had been served, healing had occurred, and meaningful work continued. "Partners?" Marcus asked, extending his hand one more time. "Partners," I replied firmly, "in justice, in healing, and in building something better than what tried to destroy us." 1 year after Ryan's conviction, the FBI requested my assistance in a new case involving a financial fraud network that Ryan had mentioned in his prison letters. "Mrs. Williams," Agent Morrison explained over secure video call, "we've discovered that Ryan's operation was connected to a much larger criminal enterprise. His attempts to provide information weren't just manipulation. He actually has knowledge that could help us stop a network currently victimizing hundreds of people." Marcus and I sat in our resource center conference room considering this development. "What kind of network?" Marcus asked. "Romance scams targeting elderly victims, combined with business fraud targeting small companies. The same psychological manipulation techniques Ryan used, but scaled up internationally." Agent Morrison shared files showing a sophisticated operation spanning multiple countries. They target recently widowed or divorced people through dating apps, build emotional connections over months, then gradually extract financial information and life savings. I felt sick reading victim profiles. Lonely people seeking companionship, manipulated by criminals who saw their vulnerability as opportunity. Before he met you, Ryan was part of a training network that taught manipulation techniques to aspiring con artists. He learned his methods from an organized group. So there are more people using Ryan's exact playbook? Dozens, possibly hundreds. They're currently targeting victims in 17 countries. What would you need from us? We need you to help us understand Ryan's methods so we can train agents to recognize and counter them. Your experience as his victim, combined with Marcus's evidence-gathering expertise, could help us develop new investigative techniques. The request felt both validating and disturbing. My suffering could potentially help protect hundreds of other victims, but would require reliving the manipulation I'd endured. 6 months of consulting work. You'd review case files, help develop victim profiles, assist in training federal agents. The compensation would be substantial, and all work would be classified. Over the following weeks, Marcus and I analyzed Ryan's criminal methodology. Reading his communications with other predators was like studying a textbook on psychological manipulation. "Look at this," Marcus showed me, encrypted messages where Ryan bragged about his techniques. He actually taught other criminals how to isolate victims from their support networks. The messages revealed systematic approaches to destroying people's lives for profit, target selection based on vulnerability, gradual escalation of control, careful timing of financial extraction, planned disposal when victims became liabilities. It's not just theft, I realized. It's psychological warfare designed to destroy people's ability to trust their own judgment. Which is why your recovery is so remarkable, Marcus replied. You not only escaped his manipulation, but developed immunity to it. We created training materials for federal agents, teaching them to recognize early warning signs of systematic manipulation. Role-playing scenarios where agents practiced identifying victim selection techniques.
Mrs. Williams, Agent Morrison reported after our consultation period, your work has already led to arrests in 3 countries. The criminal network Ryan was connected to is being systematically dismantled. How many victims were we able to protect? Marcus asked. Directly, about 200 people who were currently being targeted. Indirectly, thousands who won't be targeted because we shut down the network's training operations. I felt profound completion. The trauma Ryan had inflicted on me had been transformed into protection for people I'd never meet. His attempt to destroy my life had ultimately enabled me to save others. Marcus and I returned to our daily work helping fraud victims rebuild their lives, but with deeper understanding of the systematic nature of financial predation. We weren't just helping individuals recover, we were part of a larger effort to dismantle criminal networks. Ready for the next challenge? Marcus asked, as we reviewed applications from new victims. Ready, I replied. Let's keep building something better than what tried to destroy us. The criminal networks were being dismantled, the victims were healing, and justice continued to transform individual trauma into collective protection. 2 years after Ryan's conviction, Catherine Rodriguez called with urgent news that would change everything again. Emma, we need to meet immediately. There's been a development in Ryan's case that affects you directly. Marcus and I drove to Catherine's office, speculating about what could be so urgent. Ryan was serving his sentence without incident, Veronica had 16 years remaining, and Elaine had died in prison from cancer. Ryan Williams has been murdered in federal prison, Catherine began, spreading documents across her table. Stabbed by another inmate 3 days ago. The prison is calling it a gambling dispute, but federal investigators believe it was targeted assassination. I felt blood drain from my face. Murdered? By the international criminal network you helped the FBI investigate. Ryan apparently knew far more about their operations than he revealed, and they decided he was too dangerous to leave alive. The implications were staggering. Ryan's death wasn't just the end of his story, it was evidence that the criminal network was still operational and willing to commit murder. Are we in danger? I asked. Federal marshals don't think so. Your identities were classified during the consultation period. Catherine pulled out additional documents. However, Ryan's death has triggered automatic review of his estate and will. What estate? Everything was seized for victim restitution. Everything we knew about. Federal investigators have discovered additional assets Ryan hid even from his criminal associates. Assets worth approximately $12 million. I stared at her in shock. Where did $12 million come from? Cryptocurrency investments, offshore property holdings, intellectual property rights from patents he stole from various victims. Catherine showed forensic accounting reports. Ryan had been operating for over 15 years. The cryptocurrency alone is worth $8 million. What happens to hidden assets when a criminal dies? Ryan's will, filed shortly before his death, names Emma as his sole beneficiary. I felt sick. He left me his stolen money? Federal law requires criminally obtained assets be returned to victims when possible, but some assets can't be traced to specific crimes. Approximately $4 million in untraceable cryptocurrency would legally belong to Emma as Ryan's widow. I don't want his blood money, I said immediately. Consider the practical implications, Catherine replied. $4 million could fund your victim resource center for decades. You could help thousands of people recover from financial abuse. Using money stolen from other victims? Using money that can't be returned to other victims because we can't identify them. The alternative is the money sitting in federal escrow indefinitely. Marcus spoke thoughtfully. Emma, what if we treated it as restitution for all the victims we can't identify? Use the money exclusively for victim services and financial crime prevention. There's another factor, Catherine added.
Ryan's will contains a confession, a detailed admission of every crime he committed, including murders we never knew about. Murders? 3 suspicious deaths over the past decade, people who discovered his frauds and threatened to expose him. Ryan's confession provides evidence they were murders. The scope of Ryan's criminality was even worse than we'd imagined. He'd been a serial killer who murdered witnesses to his crimes. The confession also names his criminal associates, including the people who ordered his assassination. Federal prosecutors can use this information to complete the dismantling of the international network. I looked at Marcus, seeing the same moral complexity I was struggling with. What do you think we should do? I think we honor your father's memory by using these resources to protect people the way he would have wanted, Marcus replied quietly. We take Ryan's confession to help prosecutors catch murderers, and we use his hidden money to help victims he created but never acknowledged. After leaving Catherine's office, we drove to the cemetery where Marcus's father was buried. Standing at the grave, I felt the weight of decisions that would affect hundreds of lives. What would your father advise? I asked. Dad always said the best revenge against evil people is to use their weapons to protect good people. Ryan spent 15 years destroying lives with stolen money. Maybe it's time that money spent 15 years saving lives instead. So we take it? We take it, we use it responsibly, and we make sure Ryan's final act is protecting people instead of hurting them. Looking at the peaceful cemetery, I felt completion. Ryan's death had been violent and ugly, but it revealed information that would save lives and resources that could heal communities. Partners? Marcus asked, extending his hand one final time. Partners, I replied, in justice, in healing, and in transforming something evil into something that protects people. The criminal was dead, his secrets were revealed, and his stolen fortune would spend eternity serving the victims he'd created. 5 years later, I stood in the boardroom of the Williams Foundation for Financial Crime Victims, named ironically after the man whose stolen fortune now funded it. Marcus and I had transformed Ryan's blood money into the largest victim advocacy organization in the Western United States. The quarterly report shows remarkable progress, Sarah Martinez announced to our board. We've helped 2,847 families recover from financial fraud, secured $47 million in victim restitution, and supported prosecution of 312 financial criminals. I looked around the conference table at faces that had become family. Jessica Hartwell, now our legal director. Tom Chen, running our small business protection program. Detective Morrison, retired and serving as investigative consultant. What about the international work? Marcus asked. Our collaboration with Interpol has identified and dismantled 17 criminal networks in 12 countries. The techniques we developed from analyzing Ryan's methods have become standard training for financial crime investigators worldwide. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Ryan's systematic approach to destroying lives had become the blueprint for systematic protection of victims. There's something else we need to discuss, Jessica said, opening a confidential file. Veronica Matthews is eligible for parole next year. The room fell silent. After 5 years, the possibility of Veronica's release felt surreal. What's her status? I asked. Model prisoner, completed multiple rehabilitation programs, expressed remorse for her crimes. Jessica showed prison psychological evaluations. The parole board is likely to approve early release with strict supervision. Marcus leaned back. How do you feel about that, Emma? I considered carefully. 5 years ago, the thought would have terrified me. Now, I felt something closer to indifference. She served her time according to the legal system. If prison officials believe she's been rehabilitated, then the system worked as intended. I paused. But I'd want strict monitoring to ensure she doesn't return to criminal activity. After the board meeting, Marcus and I walked through the foundation's offices, which occupied 3 floors of a downtown Denver building. Former bank executives worked alongside reformed hackers. Retired FBI agents collaborated with academic researchers. Do you ever think about what your life would have been like if Ryan had never targeted you? Marcus asked. Sometimes, I admitted. I probably would have continued my small graphic design practice, stayed married to someone who was slowly destroying my soul, never discovered my capacity for meaningful work. Any regrets? I watched a support group meeting through a conference room window. I regret that your father had to die. I regret that so many people were hurt before we could stop Ryan. But I don't regret the path that brought us here. What about personally? Do you think about dating, remarriage, having a different kind of life? The question caught me off guard. Marcus and I had built something powerful and meaningful, but we'd never discussed our personal relationship beyond professional partnership. Marcus, are you asking me something specific? He stopped walking and faced me. Emma, we've been partners in every way that matters for 5 years. We've built something together, healed together, found purpose together. I guess I'm wondering if you've ever thought about us as more than business partners. I felt my heart rate increase. The man who'd saved my life, who'd fought beside me for justice, who'd become my closest friend and most trusted ally, was asking if I'd considered him romantically. I've thought about it, I admitted, but I wasn't sure if it was gratitude or trauma bonding or genuine affection. And now? I looked at Marcus, really looked at him. Somewhere over 5 years, the young man pretending to be a gaming-addicted failure had become a confident leader who'd helped hundreds of people rebuild their lives. Now I think it's genuine affection, I said quietly. But Marcus, we've built something professional that's too important to risk on personal complications. What if I told you I've been in love with you since that first Christmas morning when you chose to fight back instead of giving up? The words hung between us. 5 years of partnership, friendship, and shared purpose suddenly reframed themselves as something that might have been romance all along. I'd say that changes things, I replied, feeling warmth I hadn't experienced since before Ryan's betrayal. But I'd also say we should be very careful about how we proceed. Marcus smiled with careful intelligence he brought to everything. What if we started with dinner, not changing anything about our work or foundation, just exploring whether there's something personal worth building alongside our professional partnership? I thought about trust, about partnership, about the difference between someone who protected you and someone who controlled you. Marcus had spent 5 years proving he would support my independence rather than undermine it. Dinner sounds perfect, I said, but if this doesn't work romantically, we can't let it destroy what we've built professionally. If this doesn't work romantically, we'll still be partners in the most important work of our lives, Marcus replied. But Emma, I think it's going to work. Standing in the hallway of the foundation we'd created from Ryan's crimes, I felt the possibility of building something personal from the partnership that had already given both of us purpose and meaning. Partners? Marcus asked, extending his hand with different meaning than he'd used for 5 years. Partners, I replied, taking his hand and meaning something new myself. In justice, in healing, and in whatever we choose to build together. The foundation was thriving, the victims were healing, and 2 people who'd found each other in the wreckage of other people's crimes were discovering they might build something beautiful from the ashes of their shared trauma. Ready for whatever comes next? Marcus asked. Ready, I replied, feeling hopeful about the future for the first time in years. Let's see what we can build together. 2 years later, I stood in a different kind of courtroom, not as a victim testifying against criminals, but as a bride marrying the man who'd helped me transform trauma into purpose. Marcus and I had taken our time, building romance carefully alongside our continued partnership. The wedding was small, attended by the extended family we'd created through our work. Sarah Martinez served as my maid of honor. Tom Chen was Marcus's best man. Detective Morrison walked me down the aisle, having become a father figure over 7 years of collaboration. Jessica Hartwell, now a federal judge, officiated in the Foundation's conference room, surrounded by photos of thousands of people we'd helped recover from financial crimes. Emma and Marcus, Jessica said with warmth, you've already proven that the strongest partnerships are built on shared values, mutual respect, and commitment to something larger than yourselves. Today, you're simply making official what the rest of us have known for years. Marcus took my hands, his familiar touch steady and reassuring. Emma, 7 years ago, you could have chosen to be destroyed by what happened to you. Instead, you chose to fight back, to build something meaningful, to help others find their strength. You've taught me that true partnership means supporting each other's growth rather than controlling it. I looked at this man who'd protected me before I even knew I needed protection, who'd fought beside me for justice, who'd helped me discover capabilities I never knew I possessed. Marcus, you showed me the difference between someone who loves you and someone who uses you. You've supported my independence, celebrated my successes, and never tried to diminish me to make yourself feel larger. After the ceremony, we walked through downtown Denver to the restaurant where we'd had our first official date. The city had changed since that desperate Christmas morning when I'd discovered Ryan's betrayal, but the changes reflected growth and renewal. Any regrets about the path that brought us here? Marcus asked. I regret the pain that was necessary to teach us these lessons, but I don't regret the lessons themselves or the work we've been able to do because of them.
What about Ryan? Do you ever think about what might have happened if he'd chosen differently?
Ryan was incapable of choosing differently, I replied. He was a predator by nature, not circumstance. The only choice was whether his predation would be stopped or allowed to continue. We sat watching Denver's evening lights reflect off the mountains. The city that had been the setting for trauma had become home to healing, justice, and new beginnings. I thought about the foundation that would continue helping victims long after we were gone, about the international networks we'd helped dismantle, about the hundreds of people who'd found healing through our work. Most importantly, I thought about the partnership we'd built that had transformed both of us from victims into advocates. Ready for whatever comes next? Marcus asked, taking my hand. Ready, I replied, squeezing his hand. Let's build something beautiful. Outside, snow began to fall on Denver, just as it had that Christmas morning 7 years ago when our alliance first formed. But this snow felt different, not cold and isolating, but peaceful and promising. Two people who'd been abandoned by their families had created something better. Justice had been served, healing had occurred, and love had grown in the space where trauma used to live. The story that began with betrayal and abandonment had become a story of partnership and purpose. The criminals were in prison or dead. The victims were healing. And two people who'd found each other in the wreckage had built something that would protect others for generations. Partners? Marcus asked one final time, but now the word carried the weight of marriage, shared purpose, and chosen family. Partners, I replied, meaning it in every possible way. Forever. The game was over. Justice had won. And life, finally, was just beginning.
Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.